Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet.
This is Martin.
And this is the guest of Pearl.
The ghost of Pearl. What?
The guest.
Welcome, Pearl.
The guest of Pearl. I've never heard of that.
No, I was having fun with words.
I love that. Well, this is our Thanksgiving show.
Yes.
And we're going to sing a song about being thankful and grateful, not hateful, but be loving. Okay, let's go.
You start.
Let's be thankful and grateful. All right, let's go.
Let's be thankful and grateful about everything that you see. Sometimes don't worry if it's being done to you. Wonder if it's being done for me.
Let's be loving.
Be loving and kind.
Spread happiness.
All around.
Yes.
That's all you have to do
Let's be grateful.
to get into the groove of love.
Gratitude. Thankful, grateful, and loving. What does Chet have to add to this?
And love and gratitude.
Love. All from above.
At least
Yeah.
we wanna be thankful for everything.
And you.
Sometimes it's not very easy 'cause things seem very heavy or tense.
Look for the good.
You wanna build a fence and keep everything away.
And that's not okay.
Sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. It's okay either way. It's not my place to say. Yeah.
There it is.
Love.
And gratitude.
And thankful and grateful and loving. It's Thanksgiving! Our Thanksgiving show! Yay! Woohoo! Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Who
Thanksgiving.
can do a cheers? Boom!
Cheers.
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 I need water for.
Yes, she needs a water glass.
What are we drinking on today?
We are drinking some La Crema,
Oh, I love that.
which is from the Russian River Valley and the Alexander Valley.
Is that Sauvignon
And
Blanc?
this is my favorite, Sauvignon Blanc.
You know, I know we're talking. The show is about thankfulness and gratitude, but something I'm thankful for is a friend of mine owns a video production house, and they just premiered their movie on Arizona winemakers.
Really?
And it's going to be on platforms, distributed on platforms starting in January. And
Very
learned
cool.
a lot about. We have some amazing
Oh,
winemakers.
Were there
We
any of the
do.
ones that we've interviewed before on there?
You know,
No.
I'll have to go check to see because I know we've had a few people on the show.
That's incredible.
But it was really cool, and it was amazing just hearing the history and the story and just how it came about. This was a 3-year project for them
Very cool.
to put this
Well,
together.
can you get them on the show?
And so, but yeah, so it's funny when you said wine, I was like, you know what? I learned a lot about wine just recently.
Well, let's get those people on the show. And I'm
Do you remember any of the wineries from it or no?
I do not. I know there was some from the Southwest, and there was a couple. Well, Maynard, which is a pretty
Maynard.
Right,
Yes.
Maynard.
is
Yeah,
a
we've
big
had
yes.
Merkin on
Yes,
before. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
And Caduceus, it's the same owner.
okay, great.
Maynard owns Caduceus.
We'll pretend that I
and
understand all of
Merkin.
those names, but they were one of the wineries, and then
Well, look up what Merkin means when you're at home.
No, I remember. I feel like I remember this. No,
It's not. It doesn't need to be part of your lexicon.
thank you.
Well, anyway,
But
we
it
like
was
the
great.
wine. We like the wine. We like
Yeah,
the wine.
and
We're not
so I
judging.
actually, so they did a flight is at the end of, and you know, question and answer, and I can say I at least enjoyed one of the rosés, which for anyone
Oh
who's
my gosh,
seen
you
the show,
tasted one?
Oh yeah, I tried all of them.
Oh
There
my
was-
goodness.
we got to try 4 or 5 of them.
Wait a minute, you
Wonderful.
tried wine and you never will with me?
No, I've had wine before. It was
Anyway.
a flight, but anyway, it was great.
We are super thankful that Pearl's here. We're talking about being thankful. We're talking about being grateful, and all the ways. You know, this Thanksgiving, it's like just look for why you're happy. I'm so thankful you're here, Martin, and Chet, and Gabe. We're thankful for Gabe too. So, yeah, so we're just here focusing on positivity, happiness, thankfulness, gratefulness, and that's what we want everyone this season to do. You as the life love coach, Martin, can you give us a little
Well,
background?
I think for a lot of people, the holidays can be difficult. People put undue stress upon themselves. They have high expectations. They have perfectionism, which really causes a lot of suffering and sorrow.
Because there is no perfection.
Well, perfection is it's fleeting and it's subjective and it's very painful. There's very few things I think that are perfect. We talk in coaching. We talk about the difference between perfection and excellence. Whereas excellence requires some type of failure, some type of struggle, some type of tension to be able to move to the next level, to be amazing. Whereas perfection is just, I don't know, a sunset is perfection. That's nothing I can influence, right? So it's just an interesting thought process or thought.
It's funny that you say that. So my parents host Thanksgiving, but I love to cook, so I do a lot of the cooking. And we have a full house again this year, which is fantastic. And so I was going to order tables, chairs, linen, so we could all be in the backyard. My mom's like, no, mostly because her neighbors are doing some work outside, so it wasn't going to smell lovely, for lack of better terms. And all I'm thinking is, you don't have enough space in your house to sit all of us at one table. And she's like, that's fine. Well, some people will sit here, some people will sit here, it'll be good. And I'm like, the perfectionist in me was like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's actually good. Let's give it a try. Let it go. Everyone's going to enjoy. Fine. It'll be a lovely time. But I actually had that moment less than an hour ago.
Yeah.
I love that you're saying that, because I woke up this morning and saw a little blurb. One of my favorite, she's kind of a relationship expert, a counselor, kind of a coach, Mel Robbins. And she just, her book is out now. It's called Let Them.
Okay.
And it was this little segment that I saw her talk about. She said her book is mainly about how life is short, and we all have parents and family members that aren't perfect. And a lot of people want them to change in this way or change in that way, or you're not happy with this or happy with that. But she said, you can't change people. And you have to just let them. And then and she said, because she was like trying to fix this and fix that with her parents or her siblings, and nothing changes. And she would get all stressed about it, and she'd get all worked up about it, and she's just thought, how many more Christmases? My parents are like in their 80s. I might have 10 more Christmases, or and when you put it in that perspective, or 10 more Thanksgivings with them, if that.
Sure.
And so when you think of how short life is, and you can't change people, they have to change themselves, and don't upset yourself over it. You just let them. I'm so excited. I'm running to get that book like tomorrow. Let them.
I don't know, it's good. It's a good realization to have that you can't change people, but it's still important to call like friends or family out if they do something that frustrates you or you think wrong. Because if you just bottle that up inside, it's just gonna make you resent them more, and then it's gonna end up coming out way more extreme and way uglier. So it's really important to not try to change people, but to communicate your boundaries. And when you think there's a discussion that has to be had, whether it's a argument, it doesn't even have to be something that's a conflict. It could be something that's you're maybe on the same page about, but it's just important to call people out about stuff when the moment needs it.
Well, like for example, somebody out there might be in a dispute with their father or their mother.
No, I just know
or their
people that are
sibling.
very like scared of confrontation and will just like walk away from a like friendship or something before they'll call someone out. And that's crazy to me, that you wouldn't care enough about the friendship or relationship enough to like call it out and say like, hey, this is what upset me, can we fix this? Kind of a thing. So
Well, and that's why you have to be gentle in your delivery, I think, because sometimes if you are judgy, like what we talked about, and that's how can you describe what you said to me earlier about if you're judging too much, then you are the one that suffers?
Well, yeah, anything, anything around judgment and expectation leads to suffering. So if you have a judgment or an expectation that someone's going to behave a certain way or do a certain thing, and they're not doing what you think that they should, then yeah, you're gonna get suffering. You're gonna get that judgment is going to cause you suffering. I get angry at inanimate objects when I'm trying to build things and they don't go my way. I have to suffer a great deal because those little buggers don't move the way I want them to.
No, but I understand. I mean, I want to go back to what Chet was saying about having that discussion. It's difficult for someone who not necessarily would walk away from the relationship, but is like panicked about having that confrontation, even though it's healthy, just because I tend to be a little bit more of a sensitive or soul, especially coming from my culture and background. It takes a lot for me to have that conversation. Like I may sit down and literally write a script, like write out all of my thought process so I can have it in line. But I've learned, like for family or really dear good friends are basically family, I'll have that conversation even though it'll stress me out. But sometimes I will just probably, it's like, no, I may just let it go. If I've had a conversation like that before and the reaction or the response to it was very harsh and negative, it's like, is it worth my mental health to have that conversation and knowing that their reaction is probably going to be very attacky?
Right.
And you touched on if it's a conversation you've already had to have multiple times before, then it's like, oh, okay, it's better to just let this go and avoid this person rather than try to basically fix something that won't get fixed.
It is, yeah, because I live that with my, I have my current roommate, and there's just a lot of times I let a lot of things go because we've had this discussion.
It's a moot point.
And at some point you're just like, her reaction is not going to be worth the pain. It's like, you know what? It is what it is.
Well, that
sounds like you need a new roommate.
But that's different because you own the space.
Yeah.
She's renting from you,
Yeah.
so you can call the shots in that
You would
way.
think.
Well, you totally can because
yeah,
you decide.
I can.
You decide who's going to be your roommate because if you're not happy with them, so yeah.
You can, but like family, you don't decide. Now you can
That's
pick
right.
friends
Thank you.
that are family, right?
Yes.
But at some point, blood, at least for me, it's not to decide. This is my family, so I'm gonna work to have those relationships. But there are a lot of things, and I am sure there's a lot of things that my family will say about me as well, that they've just had to let go because it's important to continue those relationships because they're family. So to your point, you have to make that decision on those relationships and whether or not it's worth it to continue to pursue it. One of my best friends, we actually had that conversation. This has now been 20 years, but we had to have that conversation. I literally sat her down and said, okay, we are either going to be friends, this is going to look like, or we're not. Like, it was like, I call it my come to Jesus relationship moment. Like, you decide. I'm laying it out there. I would love to, but if you don't, I understand, and we will go our separate ways. Thankfully, she chose well, and we're still great friends to this day.
Cheers and high five. Well, I love that we're all talking about this because my kindergarten best friend Renee just flew into town last night, and I'm seeing her after the show. You guys are all welcome to come.
So what is that? So you have something to call out with her? What do you have to call her out about? How is it relevant to this topic?
It has everything to do with it.
So what are you calling her out for?
No, she
Put
had
her on
call,
blast.
She had to call me out.
Oh.
Because I got married to your dad, and your dad's mom said to me, when we get married, we only hang out with other married couples. We don't hang out with anybody that's single. And I was a little puppet and said, I love my husband so much, and they don't want me to be friends with her
This is
anymore.
making you sound crazy.
I know, but this is the truth. This is the truth. And she told me, and then my husband said to me, yes, we're not hanging out with any single people. We're only, we're going to start new friendships. And I listened. And what I'm talking about here is she forgave me that I completely blew her off for many years. And she showed up at my father's funeral because she heard that my dad died. And there she was, like, I'm going to start crying.
So when did she call you out about it?
She never did.
Oh,
She's talking about forgiveness.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so she totally forgave me and showed up at my dad's funeral. She heard that he died. And she knew that we were divorced.
Well, she was also probably understanding that you basically moved into that family phase of life it's still weird that you had that like pressure to not hang out with your single friends. That's really weird.
Well, I had a couple
But-
times where I did something with her, and then I had a lot of like feedback from my husband and my in-laws, and so I met with her and I said, I'm sorry, I just really can't hang out with you anymore.
That would be
And
unfortunate.
it's
I would lose
amazing
a
that
lot of
she-
friends that way.
And
Well,
it's
people
amazing
should-
that she still wants to be my friend.
Oh, it's a blessing.
It
I
is
don't know. I
amazing.
think people should stick up for their relationships, though. You shouldn't let a significant other dictate who you're friends with, because that's just like a toxic thing. You shouldn't have given up on that. You should have said, no, I'm staying friends with this person, and just not given in my opinion. But obviously, it's too late to do anything, and you're still friends now, so it all
Yes.
ended up working
Like-
out well. But I'm just saying this
We
for
almost
anybody
talk
that's
every day
listening. Anybody that's listening, if your significant other's trying to dictate who you're friends with, I mean, if they're saying they don't want you to be friends with your like ex or something like that, that's kind of reasonable. But if they're just micromanaging who you're friends with, that's bad. So,
Well, once again, it's that theme of what we talked about. We're here talking about Thanksgiving
Mhm.
and why we're thankful and grateful, and we're all going to get to that. But also, as people are getting to the holidays, if you're judgy
Mhm.
and you're like trying to find all the reasons why people have to meet your expectations and
Right.
that you're judging,
Mhm.
you're going to suffer.
Well, yeah, and
It's
if
not
you
being
can-
loving.
If you can sit in gratitude, you'll never suffer a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, instead of judging people, having expectations, how can I always look to myself to how can I be grateful for that person? How can I be grateful for the moment that we're in? One of my mentors always talks about doing the work in front of us. And so if we're worried about something that happened in the past or something that might happen in the future, we are not in the moment. And the moment is really all we have, and it's really the most important thing that we have. And so when we enter things with gratitude, we enter conversations with curiosity, we tap into a much, much deeper power than what you guys were talking about earlier. So in
Which is what?
leadership
Can we-
development, we talk about power versus force, and what you guys were talking about is force. It's an equal reaction to equal reaction, equal force, and it's explosive and it's conflictive and it's combat and there's a place for it. And some people love it; they get juiced by it, as Dr.
I don't like
Hawkins
that
says.
stuff.
And there's other ways through that. There's more powerful, what we call more powerful ways through that, through inquiry, being curious, asking questions, rather than coming from a place of knowing, coming from a place of curiosity and gratitude. And if you can do that, then you can master any situation.
But give an
that you're
example
in.
of that, because I'm a little bit.
All right, I'll give you I'll give you an example for business. Okay, so a manager, and this applies to a personal life, but let's start just from a kind of a corporate level. Manager walks into his or her team, and says, "Here's the problem. Here's what I think we should do. What do you guys think?" Right? That's what we call advocacy. That person told everybody what they thought should happen before getting any information, any insight. And so now that team is going to be, their thought process is going to be skewed because of what that manager said. So a leader would walk into that same situation and say, "Okay, team, here's the problem. What should we do?" And then he's very quiet and just ask clarifying questions to allow the team to be able to come to the answer. And so that's a difference between advocacy versus inquiry. If you can be inquisitive and ask questions and be curious about what's going on, either from a team or the person that's in front of you in the moment that you're in front of them, then you have a much better chance of getting to the root of the issue. We call that confrontation, but not like from a conflict. I'm not confronting you. Confrontation actually means in Latin is to bring light to something, right? And so what you're trying to do is bring light to what is really happening between two individuals, between a team, whatever. And you can't do that without curiosity. We all think we know, and we don't.
one thing I love that you touched on is how all you really have to have to be joyful this holiday season is gratitude for the moment, because there are some people out there who don't have good relationships with their families, or they even don't have families because you know, whether they're orphans or there was a freak accident. There's so many things, and a lot of those people will probably feel a lot of like pressure and anxiety this time of year because they don't have that close family to spend time with. But like you were talking about, if you have the right gratitude for the moment and for your body and for your existence, and it doesn't have to just be about family. If you don't have family, it can be about the friends that you love and any other people that you love. And if you're at a point where you maybe you don't have family and you just lost your like best friend or significant other and you don't even feel like you have that, then you should push yourself to go out and make a friend this holiday season so that you have that relationship, because we're all privileged that we have family members that we love and we're close with. But it's sad that there's some people out there that don't have that luxury.
And what better way to make a friend than go start asking questions about people, becoming curious about people.
Yeah, and don't feel bad about protecting your joy if you're one of those people that have family, but you maybe don't have the same values as them, or you don't see eye to eye with them, or there's just some reason why they affect your joy. You don't have to feel bad about not being around them. You can love people from afar.
Okay, but I'm going to interject there. Let's say, I'm just going to talk about total hypothetical situation. Let's say there's a there's somebody out there and they've always been close, and they've been close for 25 years, more, maybe up to 30 maybe, and all of a sudden, maybe somebody they're dating is really upsetting them, and they,
Let's not talk about hypotheticals. It's a waste of time.
I want to. I'm talking about this.
No, it's a waste of time.
Well, what you're talking about is, I can relate. I've with my youngest, my son and my daughter.
Oh, there you go.
They've had an amazingly difficult year. Both of them have, and they've
always been so close. Are they having a bad time?
Well, they have their moments.
Okay.
Just like every sibling, and it's funny because when they were younger, they got in more trouble from me for ratting each other out than they did for what they actually did.
I like that.
Because I really wanted to instill in them a sense of closeness. And
that's great, Dad.
Sometimes
cheers. That's great, Dad.
Well, thank you.
I know you're a great dad because I know your kids.
Nobody likes a rat.
No.
Well, it's
no rats.
Like my brother and I. Cheers. My brother and I were close. I mean, we still are. We live very different lives. We talk to each other maybe once or twice a month. So it's not like we're with each other all the time, but we are close. We talk to each other about what we think are important things, and we've always had each other's backs. And I always thought that was really important to have.
Don't you still?
Siblings, absolutely. And so I wanted to instill that in my kids.
And is he? That's the one that's married.
Yeah, Corey's married. My children aren't. But there have been times where they have been mad at each other for quite a long time, and there have been times that my brother and I have been mad at each other for periods of time, and that's okay. That's how we get better. That's how what I love about family, sometimes, not always, but mostly more with friends, is sometimes you have to go apart and learn some things before you can come together and share them and then strengthen the relationship. And sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes the universe. We talk in coaching about sometimes for any living creature, it takes some sort of tension to make that creature stronger. And in life, our siblings, our parents, our aunts and uncles, who pick one, are there to make us stronger, and there has to be tension there, right? And a lot of it comes with love, but when you use love and tension and force, it becomes like this. When you use love and tension and inquiry, it just circumvents all of that, because you are always coming from a place of love for yourself, love for the other person, and it's not easy to do.
I love exactly what you said, because a couple days ago I was hiking with my sister, and there's a lady that I see on my hike often, the hike that you and Sherry did, which, by the way, that was amazing. Oh my gosh, did we have a great time?
Still sore.
Oh my gosh, we did this long hike, and then we celebrated Sherry's birthday.
That was
it was incredible. It was like not last weekend, but the weekend before that. And so I keep running into this lady, and she's always so nice. And one day I said, "Oh, what do you do?" And she said, "I'm a child psychologist." And so my sister was talking about, "Oh, well, you know, video games. What do you think of video games? Blah, blah, blah." And so she said, the best thing to do with a loved one, don't oppose, join. Because she said when you oppose somebody and you're confrontational, it's not gonna.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
She said exactly what you said.
And so another example for a leader versus a manager, right? The advocacy versus inquiry is a manager will sit across from you and look at a problem, and you'll be on opposing sides, right? A leader sits next to you and looks at the problem with you, and the only way to do that is
to join.
Inquiry, and the only way to join is to share information. The only way to share information is to ask questions.
Yes, that's exactly what she said. And she said she has all these parents that try to fight their kids on these things, and she said that's a big mistake.
It is.
Instead, as a parent, you somehow become their advocate on what they like. If it's video games, and figure out ways, and then you just
be curious.
I was gonna say, if nothing more, even if you don't like it, just asking that question opens the door to conversation. Whether it's a child or, you know, friend, whomever it is, it opens that door. You were talking about, you know, I hired my first part-time person for my company, so I was excited, and had to have that conversation with her because I realized, I'm like, oh, it's not just me anymore. If I don't do something, it affects her not being able to do something. So we actually had that conversation, and I apologized to her to say, I am so sorry. I just realized how, if, you know, because as a business owner, you're like, I don't have to get it done today, I'll be fine. Blah, blah. Going, no, I now have a whole other person. If I don't do it, this time frame we've set, it affects all these other, it now has a domino effect. And I had to, and I mean, I guess I didn't have to, but I chose to apologize because it was that realization that I need to show that I understood, and then I asked her that question, what can we do better?
Well, I agree with that in some circumstances, but there's others where you can't just join them. Like, what if you're in that hypothetical situation? What if that person's kid is getting a face tattoo? You're gonna be like, oh yeah, let's go get matching face tattoos.
No, you're absolutely making a great point.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
There's always a balance. It's a balance between force and power, right?
But I think that's where that questioning comes in, because your underlying statement isn't joining. It was be curious and ask the question.
Yes.
Right.
So that would be where I'm like,
but I didn't finish what she said. She said join to get information, and then use strategy and finesse and love to redirect them. Is what she said.
We go directly to force,
to confrontation.
That is how we've been taught. That's how our society has evolved.
That's not coming from love.
It's cultural, and it does work, and it's not as effective as power and inquiry.
Inquiry and love,
over and over and over again in business. I mean, we can take a team and increase their productivity and measure it from 40 to 60% if they go from force to power. Just moving into curiosity will increase their productivity. It's amazing.
Like there's a guy that's been on this show in the past, and he is a billionaire from Canada, and he owns hotels, and he said that whenever he had conflict with the employees, and they were all complaining and this and that, he'd say, hold on here. And he would like take them, let's say there was a problem with the cleaning crew. And so he'd say, this is how we clean the bathroom. And he would literally go in there and spend an hour showing everybody. And he would clean the toilet. And he would, he'd plunge it, he would clean it, he would, do the whole thing. He'd spend an hour cleaning the bathroom. And he'd say, I don't want to hear anybody's conflict. He would join them to show them how to clean it.
Right. Well, and would do it himself, showing that he wasn't beneath him, right? And so, that's a leader right there.
Yes, that's a leader.
There's this great book called The 2-Second Lean, and what they would have suggested is that leader go down there and then take pictures and say, this is what this needs to look like when it's done, and this is what it looks like when it's done, and take pictures of the whole thing and put it somewhere so the next person who might not have seen that demonstration can see exactly how.
Oh, he had every employee in there, and he said that nobody, because they
Well,
were
I
all
know, but
bickering about.
I'm just saying, 2
Yeah.
months later,
Yeah, okay,
if
yeah.
they hire a new
That's
person,
fine.
hey, clean the bathroom. Here's the manual. Boom. It's
Or the
all
video.
in pictures
Or
or
the
the video
video.
or whatever it
Yes.
is, right? It's just a beautiful thing. But that's a leader. That's a person who's not afraid to should. We call it mirroring the behavior you want to see. You
Oh, I
have to
love that.
mirror the behavior that
Mirroring
you
the,
want to see in people.
okay, that could be a good title for the show.
Mhm.
So I really feel like in this holiday season, everybody that's around you, you can show love to. I don't care, and like we said, not being judgy, not being, showing suffering.
So
Okay,
I
Pearl,
want
go
to
ahead.
push a little bit because I think the word judgment has a bit of a bad rap. We all make judgment calls. Let's call it what it is. You're a
Yes.
human being. You're making judgment calls. all
Even
the
Santa makes judgments.
time.
Are
Right.
you nice or are
Well,
you
I
naughty?
was gonna say. we're
Even
making-
Santa's judging all the time.
It
Come on.
does, right? So
Yes.
I don't think judgment is necessarily good or bad because it's useful in different circumstances in different ways.
Like, do you want the face tattoo?
Right.
Yeah, you need to
No.
have judgment.
However, kind of going back to maybe the fundamental of the conversation where there's this level of inquiry and understanding, that's really, whether you agree or not, there's an importance of at least understanding the why behind what they're doing. Doesn't mean you agree, and I think we've forgotten that in our culture.
Yeah.
That just because I understand doesn't mean I also agree. We seem to think if I understand that I must agree. No, I understand. I still disagree, but at least understand where you're coming.
And you can still have the
And
conversation.
another important distinction is that you can disagree with somebody and realize, oh, they aren't for me, or like their style of, their ethics or whatever, that's not for me. But you don't have to actively like dislike them or
right, you still
let
love
them
that person even though you
just
disagree.
be like, oh, I can't be around them. I'm just gonna
So-
keep my distance, but
Right.
I don't wish bad upon them. There's just
Okay, I love that
it's
you
just
said
an
that.
incompatibility.
Okay, one more example.
There
I
doesn't
love
have
that
to
you
be
just said
any
that.
type of a.
And I wanted to hear your.
Well, no, because I feel like a lot of people have this like weird, like malicious, like dislike of whoever they like don't get along with or whatever. It doesn't have to be that way. You can
No.
just be like, oh, they're just a different person, not my type.
Yeah.
I wish them the best.
But
I was
still,
gonna say, I was like,
but
I want you to
not
do
if it's
well,
family.
just-
If
Yes,
it's
you
family,
can. You're not
no.
the same.
No.
There's some family members you're not going to get along with. You don't need to be around.
But
them.
on holidays, a few times a year,
No.
you can be nice, or you're being judgy.
No.
What do you think, relationship expert Martin?
Well, you're not going to like what I have to say.
I do. I will like everything. I like everything you say.
We've already talked about this.
I was gonna
Protect
say,
your joy.
you may
Don't be around
disagree.
people that don't be around people that rob your joy.
So there's this beautiful technique that we learn in improv, and now that I teach in leadership development, it's called yes and.
Yes.
So if someone gives you an idea in an improv comedy show, and you say, "I'm going to hit you with a banana," and you say, "No, but that's not a banana," you've stopped the scene, right? And that happens in relationships and in corporate circumstances every single day because people have a no but mentality. So improv is so much fun and teaches us that when you play with the yes and mentality, that you can take something further. So in an improv scene, if I say, "I am going to take this banana and smack you upside the head," and the other person says, "Well, fine, I'm going to defend myself with a rutabaga," right? So that's that added to. It's ridiculous, but it's still added to, and it makes something more interesting. So in the idea of what Kinka was talking about, if I have an opinion that is diametrically opposed to someone, let's say at work, and it's an engineering situation, right? And so there's context and some wild stuff around it. You can absolutely say, some person can say something you completely disagree with, and you can say, yes, I see your point. I see exactly what you're saying, and I love that. And then you can say the exact opposite thing of what that person said, and it's far less likely for you to get into confrontation with that person just because you acknowledge
What they're saying.
that they had an opinion and that you gave it a thought and or whatever it is. And if they do the same for you, you are far more likely to get to the truth, whatever that might be for the situation, or get to, but you have to be curious. You have to be in the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this.
Mhm.
So let's say you love somebody, and all of a sudden they're dating somebody that you think is a bad example, or they're not a good partner, and they're not good to you, and you can't be around that person, but you love the other person. What do you do?
Well, again, it depends on the situation, but what I tell my kids is that when you're with me, be with me, and if you're not with me, be where you're at. And my kids don't have to come to every Thanksgiving, every December. I mean, they work a lot. They work in the service industry, so a lot of times it's difficult for them. And we have other joyous times together. And so I don't put a judgment or an expectation around tradition. Some people are more traditional, and that's important to them. That's just not something that's important to me. And I don't think it's wrong to be traditional. It's just that's not what I'm into. I'm into being in the moment, being into, if I want to buy a present for somebody, a Christmas present for somebody in August and give it to them, I'm going to do that. And I might forget and give them another present. I mean, who knows? That part of it doesn't matter to me.
You're so accepting. You would just say you're happy for them that they're with that person having fun, not like basically impose your expectation of being around them. Exactly. So you just have to accept if somebody is with somebody that you don't get along with and you need the distance, there's nothing wrong with that.
So like, for example, when you're going through your divorce and your kids were wanting to hang out with their mom, you were just like, go enjoy her?
Absolutely. If I put a barrier there, if I had a judgment around how they should spend time with their mom, they're, I certainly, I had my own issues with their mom. Yeah, but their mom is their mom.
I won't talk about it.
Right, I can't.
Well,
I can keep a secret. Do you guys believe it? I can keep a secret.
Miracles do happen. But no, what I was going to say is, I think family is, like, I have 3 brothers, right? So I always wanted to have sisters. The only sisters I'm going to technically get are my brother's wives. So because of that, I've made a conscious...
What about me?
And extended dear friends.
Thank you.
But because of that, I've made a very conscious decision that I'm going to have a relationship with these women.
I love
we
that.
may not be best of friends, whatever, but it's a very conscious mental decision. I'm going to have a relationship with them. Why? Because I'm very close with my brothers. And I don't want them to ever have to pick. Because quite frankly, they shouldn't pick me if it's between me and their wife. So I'm just not going to create a situation where that choice has to be made.
I love what you're saying.
And so because of that, but that was my conscious choice.
Because that's unselfish.
Because of, no, it's not selfish. It was.
No, he said it's unselfish.
Oh, okay.
It's unselfish.
Yeah, but it was because of my choice of these 3 people are important to me, and I want to make sure I continue to have that relationship with them. Are there stuff that happens where I'm like, ugh, yes, and are there times I've had that conversation? Yes, but then I just gotta let it go, because at the end of the day, though, if I pit myself against them, and if I win, that's bad. If I lose, that's bad. So let's not just get in the place where I'm pitting myself against.
This is the best thing. This is the best thing I've heard here, because you are sacrificing so you can have a great relationship with your brothers.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Important to me. So for other people, other relationships are important to them. Ultimately, you're going to make choices of all these things, and those are some of my choices, right, that I've made, and how it plays out in real life, and what that looks like, and what I do.
Because family, you have to love.
I don't agree with have to.
You want to love.
Family is another choice of love. I have chosen to have close relationships with my family. Therefore, I have actions that support that choice.
That's a much more accurate perspective too, because there's people out there that have also endured terrible things at the hands of their family too. And so for those people, you don't have to love that person that hit you or abused you or whatever your family member might have done to you. It's okay for you to not like that person in that case.
I'm with you. I'm going back to the protect your joy. Like, my dad left Illinois because his family was toxic, and he didn't want anything to do with them. So he moved us all the way from there to here back in 1974. Had no idea what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, but recognized that he didn't want to have anything to do with them. And he did try to, you know, have contact, and every time he went back to them, something happened, and it just, you know, reinforced it.
Reminded
Reminder.
him why.
Yeah, reminding him why,
Reminder.
and then there was a certain point where he absolutely just cut them off, and they wanted his attention, but he absolutely refused.
And that was probably the best movie ever made. I feel
Absolutely.
so bad for people that you see stuck in these same cycles, hanging out with the same toxic people, because it rubs off on them and causes them so much
So
stress.
and on that
And
note,
so I'm right in the middle of something.
Okay.
But so yeah, what do you think? People that are stuck hanging out with somebody toxic, but they don't have like the courage to push them away, what do you think is like a good way to help them see that and inspire them to be like, hey, this person is dragging you down,
right.
causing you basically living hell, yet you're still being around them all the time?
So, as a coach, what I have learned, and this has been drilled into my head by my coaches, and these ladies have been doing this for 40 plus years.
yes,
They say that you cannot teach someone something that doesn't want to learn. That's might as well just run full speed into a block wall. So
it's like the book Mel Robbins, Let Them.
right. And so in letting them, you have to allow the universe to teach them whatever lessons and protect your joy. The number one thing, if you look at the top leadership books in the country, how do you become the best leader you can possibly be? Work on yourself first. Work on yourself the most. Don't worry about what other people are doing.
Or what
they
they're thinking.
have to
Yeah.
learn their lessons. And if they come to you for advice, if they come to you for something, and you can give it to them, do. If you can't, don't.
And then let it go.
And then let it go.
I think that's the biggest part is once you've
Beautiful.
given that advice, you're gonna have to let it go, because at the end of the day, they're gonna have to decide what they want to do with that. You still have no control, but at least you did your part. Because I've had that happen flip side, where people were looking at my life like, bro, what the are you doing with your life right now? And they just had to let me go. And on the flip side, I've had friends and family, I'm like, what the are you doing? And then they'll come back and like, don't talk to me. I gave you the advice and you chose to not listen. So you can't even come at me because I said it. And same thing on the
Too
flip
late.
side. Like,
Yeah.
I can't come at them. They're like, nope.
Sometimes you have to give them time to
Yep.
figure it out.
So we had a speaker on here 3 times that's world famous, that speaks all over the world about finance. And I hiked this morning with him and Richard. I'm not going to say who it is. And some people that listen every week might know who I'm talking about, but I didn't really know that he was a child of extreme abuse. And he did tell on the show, he talked about on the show how he started working when he was 11. And I did not know it was from extreme physical abuse, all kinds of abuses. And
we see that in coaching all the time. The people who are top performers, a lot of them, and it's just, it's heartbreaking, but a lot of them are driven by the darkness like that they have been, felt like they weren't good enough, and it's...
And you know how we got on the topic of conversation is I was talking about how we had that AI show with Lance. And I said how, some parents in the future might have like a nanny that's a robot. And I said, that's terrible and I don't agree with it. And he said, no, I think some parents should rather have a robot than being the parent. And then he spoke of why. So
yeah,
it's
there's
really
definitely, there's different perspectives. And I've seen people make remarkable breakthroughs and release all of that darkness and forgive. My coaches call it forgiving, but don't forget, because the forgiveness is for you, but you don't have to forget that they did it. You don't have to forget that they might do it again. You just can forgive that moment and move forward. And so the forgiving is for you.
I love that. So we have about maybe
10 minutes.
10 minutes left, and we want to talk about more Thanksgiving rituals maybe, and what if you're focusing on the happiness of Thanksgiving and why you're thankful and grateful, what would that be, Pearl?
Oh wow, for Thanksgiving, I mean, I'm happy. I'm a lot like my dad. When our family gets together and hang out, that always brings me a lot of joy. Spending time with great family and friends. I love to cook, So Thanksgiving to me is a time to just get to cook some of my favorite foods for some of my favorite people and just hang out and be chill.
I would love to know what some of your favorite foods are that you'd like to cook.
Yes. What would that be?
Oh, well, I'll tell you some of the favorite foods that we have.
Okay.
So we are meat eaters in our family. So we do a turkey. I think we do a turkey just because we're supposed to.
Right.
Really. But we do pot roast is really number one. And then we get a honey baked ham. So we have those three mates. Then I do homemade gravy from the drippings. I do homemade from scratch rolls, homemade mashed potatoes. My mom does a fabulous cornbread. My best friend and her family come up and they have, before she was married, so her kids have only known Thanksgiving at my parents' house. And so she'll bring desserts and some fruit salad and another salad, lots of food. And then, let's see, what else will we do?
Do your brothers coming in?
And how many people do you feed?
Yeah.
To this Thanksgiving, 13 people.
Okay.
So 2 of my brothers are coming in. So my one brother who's married and their 2 children, they're going to be, and my other brother who's not married, he's coming, he's flying in as well, which is really cool. So last year, Thanksgiving, everyone was in town because my youngest brother lived in Flagstaff. So we came. It was the first time we've done Thanksgiving completely as a whole family in over a decade.
Cool.
And so of course we did a family picture to document it.
I want to see that.
You did. I posted it.
Well, send it to
But
me
I'll
again.
text it to
Called
you.
out.
Well, let's send it to
But
me
I'll,
again.
but I'll text it to you. But it was really cool because it was all this generation. And again, one of my best friends, like I said, she's there, so she was there. And then one of my sister-in-laws, her grandfather lives here, so he was there. And then my other sister-in-law, her mom came in town. So it was just this visual cornucopia of all these different people's different walks of life. That is one big family, which ultimately for me is what Thanksgiving and the holidays is about. I know it's not that way for everyone, but I have a very culturally diverse family now, given with my sister-in-laws and everything, and it visually shows. So it's really cool to see that. And then there's three generations, right? My parents, us, me and my siblings, and now my brothers, between the 2 that are married, have 6 children. So it's 3 generations of Fulanis. It was just cool to see.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about, now we did Pearl, now me, and then we'll do you too. So for Thanksgiving, I'm going to give my dad all the credit. I love you. He was so forgiving, so loving. It was all about, just spreading joy to people. And he would invite everybody over that didn't have somewhere to go. So our Thanksgiving was like 50 people, and anybody that was like going through a hard time or a divorce or whatever, they were invited and included. And he never stayed mad at anybody. And that's what he taught to all the kids. And that's how we all are. So I can't stay mad at any of my family members or anybody or any of my friends. I get mad at you.
I mean, she can, but she'll get over it.
The next day. Okay, go ahead.
So, boy.
What does it mean to you, Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving. I'm going to start with Friendsgiving because
I'll be there.
Wednesday nights before Thanksgiving, the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, we know that we have such a big group of friends that have to cook and they have to do something. So we thought, well, maybe we can do something for them. And so from about 4:30 to midnight, we just host what we call Friendsgiving, and so people can just swing by, have a bite to eat. We make chili and cornbread, and I make a vegetarian and a vegan version, as we have again a variety of different people in our friend group. And we've had 60 people come through there, and we probably have that many this year. Not all at the same time. You just kind of wander in and out. Sometimes they bring their kids, sometimes they don't. It's just a lot of fun, and so that really means a lot. And that's something very important that Sherry and I share with our friends group, and everybody looks forward to it. And it's just standing. Sometimes we forget to invite people, and people show up anyway. So you just have to, if you know, you know.
Chet?
If you're somebody that's lucky enough to, have a lot of amazing family, then spend it loving them and being thankful for them. If that doesn't apply to you, then do it with your friends. If that doesn't apply to you, then still find something to be thankful for, whether that's your body and your health or your existence. And if you're having trouble finding that, then you can always go back to square one of doing yoga and some type of a workout, so that it'll just bring you back to square one of appreciating your body and your existence. And then you'll be in a better mental place to go make friends and then go up the ladder from there. Because I don't know, I just feel so lucky that I have so many amazing friends that I really consider brothers or sisters to me, and then amazing family too. So I just feel bad for the people that don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been a great show. How do people find you, Martin?
I guess it's more fun always.
In Pearl?
LadyJewel.net.
Are
And
you
deep
sure?
chatty music.
Yes. Should
And
we take a poll?
I want everyone to
Oh, we
know.
didn't really talk about
Happy
my
Thanksgiving.
company. That's
Happy
all that's
Thanksgiving.
funny. Happy
Deep
Thanksgiving.
chatty music at Decadence.
I don't want to talk about that
On
here.
New Year's.
Stop.
Happy Thanksgiving. Saving the planet.
One
show
show
at
at
a
a time.
I don't want people like Gardenia to know about that shit.